surfing is a lie.
I mean, I feel like your first clue should have been, and I'm pretty good at it, and it's an athletic thing. So, yeah, that's pretty much my lie.
You've been to Italy 3 times?
Yeah.
When was the last time?
Actually, that's also a lie.
I
cheated!
You can't do that!
I didn't realize I was cheating. I just was crossing things off the list. Welcome to Are We Happy Yet? A podcast that seeks to answer the age-old question, why are we all so damn unhappy no matter what we do? A far cry away from the latest self-help craze or wellness tips, on this podcast, we won't shy away from the hard but critical conversations about the true causes of our unhappiness epidemic.
Join us, Hannah Buzzo, licensed therapist, and Jane Thatcher Hahn, licensed clinical social worker, as we explore why nearly 86% of Americans don't consider themselves very happy. Luckily, as a means of self-preservation, we'll use laughter, self-deprecation, and lots of cursing on our journey to understand what will truly, finally, make us happy.
Let's go.
Okay, 2 truths and a lie. We're going to play.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first? You go first.
Okay, 2 Leos. That's a hard choice.
Okay.
All right, here's my 3.
Okay.
I've been chased by a moose. I've been to Italy 3 times. And I love surfing, and I'm pretty good at it.
Okay, I'm caught in between Italy and surfing as the lie because I feel like you would have told me if you went to Italy because, you know, I love Aperol Spritz. But
true.
I also have been to Mexico with you and know that you don't love surfing. So I'm going to go to surfing is the lie.
I mean, I feel like your first clue should have been, and I'm pretty good at it, and it's an athletic thing. So, yeah, that's pretty much my lie.
You've been to Italy 3 times?
Yeah.
When was the last time?
Actually, that's also a lie.
I
cheated!
You can't do that!
I didn't realize I was cheating. I just was crossing things off the list.
That's okay. Have you been chased by a moose?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the truth.
Oh, that's the truth. I was hiking in Yellowstone with my parents and my sibling Davy, and we came up on like a little baby moose. And we were like, oh, this is so sweet. And then we didn't realize that we got in between the mama moose and the baby. And the mama put her head down and just charged us. And luckily, like 2 of us went one way and 2 of us went another way. And I think she got confused. So we
How old
survived.
were you?
I don't know, like 8 or 9 maybe.
Is this like your, what's it called, premonition? And that's why you wore moose sweatshirts out to the club in college?
No. That was just really bad style.
When I think about you, I think about the story about just Jane told me that when she would go clubbing, and Jane can share this, in her Mormon days, right? You would wear sweaters with mooses on them.
I had this brown t-shirt with a pink moose on it. And I was so into, like, I really went to the club to dance. And I would wear my tennis shoes and my moose shirt and my like terribly shaped jeans, and I would just dance my ass off. I did meet my first boyfriend in that moose shirt though.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it worked.
It
It worked.
He took my virginity, so
But thank you to the moose.
so thank you to the moose.
Okay, well, all right. 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
I've been to jail. Sushi is my favorite food. My mom dated Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay. I think we've talked about Jeffrey Dahmer. And I think you've probably been to jail. So I'm going to say sushi's not your favorite food.
Sushi is the lie. I hate sushi.
I don't really love it either because here's the thing. I can't get enough of it in me to feel like I ate a decent meal.
No.
Yeah.
To me, like, a meal is like you're leaving that place like feeling like you're like can't breathe. Like, and you know what I mean? Like
you paid a bunch of money.
Yes.
You want to feel slightly uncomfortably full.
Yes.
Even though you regret it a little bit.
100%.
You can't get that way with sushi. I can't get that way with sushi.
No.
Yeah.
That is a red flag. Like every time like I like meet a new friend or a colleague, I swear to God, everyone, you know, when you get to the stage of going to dinner with someone, everyone's always like, let's grab sushi. And then I have to do this thing where I'm like, my red flag is I fucking hate sushi.
Are you saying that's a red flag for them?
It's probably a red flag for me. Like I feel like mostly everyone loves sushi.
A lot of people love sushi.
And then I'll suggest like Texas Roadhouse and people are like, ew.
I'll go to Texas Roadhouse with you.
Do you like Texas Roadhouse?
I've never been to Texas Roadhouse.
Is that another lie?
No, that's true. That one's actually true.
Oh my God, we have to go.
Okay, we'll go.
Oh, I love Texas Roadhouse.
Great. We'll go to Texas Roadhouse and then we'll let you know how it is.
Well, welcome to Are We Happy Yet? Where 2 truths and a lie become 2 lies and a truth, but that's the way we do it here.
Rules are hard. Instructions are hard.
I'm Hannah and this is Jane.
Hi.
And today we're going to do a little deep dive into us and who your host will be on this journey of this podcast and talk a little bit about why we created this and why we're doing this and sharing a little bit more about us. So y'all get to know us a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should start, Hannah, with why we chose the name Are We Happy Yet? And kind of how that came about.
Well, that was Jane just being a creative genius. But
and a surfing genius.
a surfing genius in Italy. Okay, we chose this. So basically how this whole podcast came to be, Jane and I are both therapists, and a few years ago, I worked for Jane. Jane owns a group practice where she employs therapists, and I was working for her. And eventually started my own practice, but we have always super clicked, so we stayed in touch and stayed connected. And over the last couple of years, I had been sharing, you had been sharing about how hard it is in the mental health space to, I mean, it's a wonderful job, but it's also a very hard job. And we both own businesses in the space. And so we're navigating, you know, a country that doesn't really take mental health seriously. We're dealing with insurance companies that don't pay us hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're dealing with, you know, seeing a client for an hour a week when all this other stuff is going on. So we've been talking and about the clinical piece as well as the business piece, and about how I wish that more people had free information about the real aspects of mental health and healing and wellness and and not these buy my product, buy my course, buy this, buy that, do Pilates, yada, yada, yada. Like, you cannot Pilates your way out of the society that we live in. Yeah. So we've been talking about it more and more and more, and you are super on board. And so we had the idea of the podcast, and really the question that Jane and I had is, why don't our clients like get better sometimes? And talked about, you know, we're all doing all of these things. It seems like everyone is on a healing journey. Everyone focuses on their health. Everyone's reading this book, doing this meditation, going to this yoga class. But yet the statistics say that 86% of Americans don't consider themselves happy. So that's how we came up with the name. What would you add to that?
Yeah, that's a great description of how we got here. I would add that one of the cultural things we noticed was that, especially in the United States, it's such an individualistic country, which then translates to, if you did something different or bought this thing or did this XYZ, then you would be able to figure out how to be happy. So essentially the idea is, the culture is fine and you should be able to figure out how to adjust to everything that's going on around you. So you are ultimately the problem. You're the one with the depression or the anxiety or the OCD or the PTSD. And then when we started working with clients and really stepping back from it, we started thinking about things like, well, actually depression and anxiety might be a pretty typical human response to the politics and environmental disaster and the issues in the economy and capitalism and just the way that we've set up this giant society and culture and machine, really. So I think that was one of the things we wanted to hit home, is that yes, you can do a lot of things individually for yourself, and you should. And we believe in therapy, and actually we both actually love Pilates, and we both we both believe in these things. And simultaneously, there's more that needs to happen. There's a bigger cultural shift that needs to happen, and we need to find ways to stop blaming ourselves and others for really very human responses to what's going on in the world.
Yeah. And I think that brings up a really good point. And I mean, so much of the work that I do as a therapist is, hey, this is normal. Hey, that's normal. This feeling is normal. This reaction is normal. It's normal for you to feel lonely in the relationship that you're in, right? Yes. And throughout years and years of normalizing, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, well, yes, it's a normal experience, but also the system at large is not designed for individuals, specifically in the Western world, to be happy or be content, because that goes against the same machine that makes the economy and system and political system persist. And so 86% of people say that they're not happy. And I mean, we understand or are understanding more why.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has it been for you so far doing this podcast? What's it been like?
I'm having a great time. I knew that I would enjoy this podcast, but I was sort of placing it in line with some of the other work that I'm doing. And so what really has been rising above for me and surprised me is that the conversations are super beneficial for me personally. Yeah. I think, when therapists or healers go into the world and are like, I'm going to do a podcast or a course or whatever, you don't realize how that might affect you. And we're having these brilliant people come in, having conversations with them about things we care about. And this, like, we've gotten this far in this conversation. And then I just feel like they're taking us even farther. They're helping me rethink, myself in the context of all of these things. So I think that's what's been really fun, really rewarding. I know you and I have both talked about the other thing that happens in the Western world with therapists is you're really essentially this like blank slate. All these people come in and sit down and tell you about their thoughts and feelings and struggles and traumas, and you don't have to share anything. So it's been an interesting journey to share more of myself in a public way, and also have sort of all my multiple identities coming together, which I think is partly what, we like people to be either a professional or a creative or a mom or a this or a that. And so, and we talk a lot about identity and all those things on the podcast. So that's been scary and interesting and a good challenge for me. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I've been surprised by how much it's affected me. Like we've been doing this for a few months now. I've definitely had things happen and I've like, oh, this reminds me of what this person said or that person said. I think a couple of things. One is this took a lot of, I think courage is the right word we're not making money from this podcast yet. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. We're putting our blood, sweat, and tears into it. The thing that has surprised me, I was a little bit nervous to invest all of this when I'm so busy and I have so much going on. And to spend how many hours a week doing something that for free. I was afraid of like resenting it a little bit, but I've actually had the complete opposite experience having these conversations and doing this project and obviously we're creating a podcast and putting it out there. So there is an outcome, but I've been along for the ride that it's actually inspired me more. That I feel more energized and I am surprised by that.
Yes, me too. And I think you and I both have businesses, small businesses. We know that when you start a project, a workshop, an event, there's so much work just to get the momentum to get something going. And I think we had conversations about like, can we really fit this into our super busy lives, especially when the conversations we're having is how can we be less busy? And how do we make more time for the things that we love about or the things that we love? And so I think it's been interesting to have sort of that opposite effect and to feel like it's actually supporting those conversations that we're having.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's the piece too, is like, it just doesn't feel that hard because these are things we would talk about over happy hour, that I would talk to colleagues about. Like, it feels like very aligned and very like, this is truly like how I see the world, what I'm curious about. Like, it feels like real life, you know?
Yeah. And I hope that comes through in the interviews, because that's people we love and respect. And we're having these conversations that we actually are really very passionate about. And some things we wish we could even say to our clients that we can't. And some things that we say to our clients constantly. I feel like a lot of times on the podcast, I'm like, I always tell my clients, or I'm always, you know. So I think that's part of what is nourishing about it for me, is that piece.
Yeah.
What would you say for you is like the biggest myth you're out to bust, or like the biggest
myth?
Yeah. Like, what do you hear your clients say, or what do you feel like you're constantly saying to your clients? Like, here's the real deal.
Yeah. Well, I think it is this narrative of we're supposed to feel happy all the time, that the goal is to be happy. I think that's the biggest myth. And I think that goes also with this very achievement-based culture that we live in. I mean, I can't tell you all, if not almost all of my clients have either retired or gone to college or started a family or started a business or got a promotion or went to Bora Bora, whatever the fuck. But it's this deep pain around like, that isn't enough, and who am I? And I think the myth is that like, you'll be happy when you achieve or accomplish or get somewhere or get into this outcome. And I think that's wrong and harmful for two reasons. One, you won't be happy. You'll be sad, disappointed, excited, anxious, joyful, content. You'll be all the things. And I think on the flip side of that, it's never rooted to the outcome ever. Like, I would say that, like, probably like, I just think that outcome-based mentality does us really a lot more harm than good. And so I think in some of the conversations that we've had really successful, cool, smart, interesting people of all walks of life. Yeah. And no one has said, like, I achieved this thing and therefore I am good. Yeah. Everyone says, nobody said that. I achieved this thing and it made me realize that, like, that isn't all it's cracked up to be. So, and I think that's a big piece of it. Yeah. What about you? Mythbuster?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think the thing I spend a lot of time working on my clients with is not removing anxiety, not removing conflict or struggle or a broken political system, but that they actually can handle everything that comes their way. I think a lot of people aren't aware that they can absolutely handle these things, and that spending time building up that concept of, you know, resilience, like the buzzword, but the courage and the commitment and the wisdom and the strength, and knowing like hard shit is coming for you, really hard shit. And it's probably going to get a lot, my guess is things are going to get worse, much worse before they get better. And we can do that. You know, we can handle that. We have strength. We can show up for those things. The other piece is a lot of my clients believe in perfection. Like they actually believe they can achieve some level of perfection or excellence or whatever. And maybe they can, but you know, perfection's not real. It's not an option for them. So I always say there's no option for you to be a perfect mom or a perfect employee or boss or spouse or artist, or like, that's just not out there for you. So you might as well just
let that one go.
Yeah.
And I mean, what you're saying there too, I think is the whole through line is this idea of all of this, which I find fascinating. It depends on when you ask me, maybe on a big, and what I'm going through. But I think it's also the beautiful, fascinating part of our job and the role that we get to be in as therapists, but also the extremely challenging one to be as a therapist, but just as a human, is I think it all boils down to managing our anxiety and our avoidance. It all comes down for us to try to do all these things to manage our pain and get rid of it and not feel it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. When, like, I think the answer, and there is no answer, but the answer is, like, no, to be with that pain and not avoid it, not control it, right? And I think to what you said too, and I'm guilty of this, we all spend so much time trying to, like, manage the external things. Yeah. When, like, what we're trying to manage is that anxiety and pain and fear and disappointment inside. Yeah. And I think the other piece is, like, it's not out there, it's in here. And I hope our conversations can reflect that like, there's no thing I think that will make you happy. I think it's this internal knowing and trusting of yourself and doing whatever you need to align with that.
What I love about what you said is, you know, you're actually trying to manage or understand or be with the anxiety within. And a lot of the things that we do instead of being with that is numb out and avoid. And I think that part of why we feel disconnected and alone and lonely and all the many things is because we're totally disconnected from the moment. And it's super easy to do it in our culture because you can hop on your phone or you can hop on the TV or things are moving really fast or there will always be more to do at work. So we aren't sitting with our mortality. We aren't sitting with our anxiety. We aren't sitting with our ultimate irrelevance. We are running, trying to create a different internal experience. But the ways that we're doing that, I think, the numbing that we're doing creates emptiness and it creates disconnection. And then we look around and we're like, well, what's the point? You know, which also doesn't feel good. Yeah.
And perhaps it's the way that we, you know, why we're such good friends and colleagues is we think, I think similarly, but also differently in a lot of ways. But I think really the through line here is this existentialism, this like human experience in all its pain and all its beauty and all its glory. How do we have conversations and provide a space about all of that, right? And that life isn't done in a certain way and it doesn't need to be, and you don't have to do the 5-year plan in order to be happy. But can we talk about and explore these things that encompass the really wild human experience that we all live in, right?
Yeah, and I love just that reinforcement of there's no right way to do it. There's no right way to jump in with all these experiences, but there's also not one thing that's going to make it all easy or one thing that can be done that will take away XYZ or move you on to the next perfect level. And I think if you live in a society that's very much based on buying and selling and marketing, then of course the concept is going to be, if you have this one thing, if you do this one thing, then all, you know, look at any perfume ad or any ad for workout gear or any ad for anything, right? Kind of the story is like, it's going to make things great and easy and perfect. And I think that's a really confusing message for humans.
It's so funny you said that because I was kind of thinking about something as you were talking is like, and I'm curious what your experience has been. But I've been talking to people. I'm starting this podcast, right? And they're like, oh, what's the podcast about? Tell them. And it's like hard to wrap it up into the elevator speech. You know, it's not about business. It's not about therapy. It's not about self-help. It's not about wellness, right? Like it's about the human experience. And unfortunately, I mean, some people have been really excited by that, but some people give me the blank stare. Because we don't, we like siphon ourselves out into all these parts where it's like, how do we find a platform, a place to talk about all aspects of the human experience, not compartmentalize ourselves into all these different 1,000 compartments. So I don't know if you've had that experience, but that's something I've noticed is how it's hard to get excited, describe this podcast because it's none of those things.
Yeah. That's an experience I have with the podcast, but also just generally in terms of, and you remember this from, how do you market a private practice? How do you market yourself?
Pain point, baby.
Pain point. Find the pain point, name it so that they trust you, and then tell them exactly how you're going to fix it and save it. And then niche down, niche, like I help XYZ do XYZ.
Yes.
I've done that. I'm not going to knock on it. Like, that has how my website is set up, so I'm not going to knock on it. But at the same time, I think for products, businesses, art, people, when we silo, when we niche, when we kind of strip everything else away, sometimes that doesn't allow us to have that full, whole experience or identity or sort of the dynamic life experience. And I know for myself, I both am a creative, an artist, I'm a professional. I have a lot of identities, and I have always struggled to figure out how to say, like, this is who I am and this is how I can present to the world. Right. And I've had different people be like, oh, I didn't even know you did this other thing. And I noticed myself even compartmentalizing what I show to people, which we all do to some degree, but all compartmentalize an entire piece of identity. Oh, I didn't know you were a creative. I didn't know you were a therapist. I didn't know you had a podcast. And just trying to figure out, for me, the psychology behind why don't I feel like I can integrate all this? And, a lot of that is the messaging that I've gotten. And fear of rejection and all of those pieces. It's tricky.
It is tricky. It's super tricky. And I mean, I've even been like a little bit pulled into that with this podcast is like, are we too broad? Do we have the, right? But I just really think, for me at least, it's a workshop and like practicing what I preach.
I love that. Same.
Yeah,
I think that when we say that's the way it has to be, then that's the way it has to be, right? But if we say, what if you have a podcast that explores all sorts of things and that, there's many through lines, but there can also be new surprises and it's more comprehensive. One of our interviewees, Erica Bonham, who's an incredible therapist and author, she was talking about the book that she's writing and how her editors, publishers said, this is the number, this is how long a book should be, and this is how many topics it should have in it, and she's like, but all these pieces need to be together and all this information needs to fit in. But she's getting told this thing that you're making needs to be something different to make it scalable and marketable and all these pieces. So I think we're seeing a lot of that when you try and make everything marketable and everything scalable and everything big and explosive and sort of viral, then what gets lost in that
100%.
piece? Yeah.
I mean, which, no shit, we all feel like a bunch of identities when we're just trying to go viral, right?
It's totally, if that's all that you're working for, it's pretty hard to be a whole person.
What do you want our listeners to know about you?
See, this is an interesting question because you would never ask a therapist what, right? What do you want your clients? Because it's all about the client. I think I would want our listeners to know, to be in an experiment with me around all my identities. So I like to write. I spent a long time working as a professional musician, writing music, recording music, teaching it, touring. I am a therapist. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur, a daughter and a friend and an auntie. And I have a lot of personalities that are really valuable to me. And so I think I would want them to know that's available to them and that's kind of what I am interested in, is kind of bringing all those things together and exploring what that means. I would want them to know that I'm in no way claiming any sort of superiority in my own mental health or having my shit together. I could list off all of the things that are incomplete and unraveling in my personal life right now.
Wait, tell me, what's the tea? What's unraveling, Jane? You always look like you have it all together.
This organization piece is the math and the organization where I'm like, there's so many details.
Yeah.
I love a big picture. I like themes. This whole, the numbers and the organization for me are not, they're not my strength. And then I would say, I turned 40 last year. I'm about to turn 41. And there's all of the stuff for me that came with like, I'm at midlife. What the fuck am I doing with my life? I didn't achieve my goals. Do I matter? What's happening? Sometimes things feel dull or uninteresting or unimportant or gray. And then that makes me feel anxious and scared and worried and all of those pieces. So I think I'm, in that sort of midlife transition, coming from a place of I'm a creative and I'm an artist and I'm going to market that and make that big and explosive and viral. And that, was not my path. So, and I put a lot of energy and investment into that piece of my identity. And so now I'm sort of figuring out like, what does it look like? What is meaning and purpose? Like really basic meaning, purpose. How do you feel alive? How do you feel real? Those kinds of things.
Do you think we ever know? Like, do we ever get there? Do you think?
I think that we talk a lot about psychedelics on this podcast. I had an interesting journey recently, and the message that I got was just keep scratching the itch, just keep trying to search down the things that make you feel more connected and more alive. Yeah. I wanted this particular psychedelic journey to be like, blow me open and crack open the whatever and like make it all feel XYZ. And it was really very subtle. And it was sort of like, listen, the world is not here to make you feel a certain way. But it is worth your time to keep adding in a little bit of art, connection, conversations, working on this podcast. Totally. Like scratching at what makes us feel human
100%
instead of waiting for like something that transforms me that I don't have to do anything about. Like,
that is my MO, baby. Like,
do it for me.
Yes.
I want you to do it for me. And you and I have lots of conversations with our clients about like, just things don't really get done for you.
Yeah. It's a really, really good point. And don't we all want that, right? Like,
and you can't blame a person.
Yeah.
You can't blame a person for
that.
Listen. I want you to come for me.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm doing a great job. Yes. Make me feel good all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to,
Yeah.
What about you? What would you want our listeners to know about you?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think biggest things are, I'm in it. I'm in the exploration. At all, do I think I'm an expert or have life figured out? No, I'm actually in pursuit of curiosity and exploration. And so by no means is this a reflection of knowledge. It's more a pursuit of curiosity for me. And also an act of service, and that I feel really grateful and lucky to have the conversations that I have and the relationships that I've built to be able to talk about all these things. Yeah. And no matter what, like, area of my life in, if it's my psychedelic friends or my fiance or my mother-in-law, right? Like, these themes always come up. And so I feel really grateful to be in a position where I feel really connected and inspired in the people that I get to talk to. And so bringing that to more people for free, I think is something that is really important to me. But I'll say too that, I'm a triple fire sign and I've got a lot of energy and I'm a firecracker, but underneath it all, I'm in the pursuit of the same thing. And the current stage of my life has been achieve, do, get the thing. And I have a really wonderful life, but underneath it all, there is this feeling of, am I enough? Am I lovable? Like, I just want to feel good. and enjoy my life. Like really at the end of the day, it is that. And so that's where I'm at, is trying to get out of my own way and enjoy every moment, good, bad, or ugly. And I'm not very good at that. So
yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing. I just really tried to therapize you, but I stopped myself.
Tell me.
It's kind of like,
maybe
don't say you're not good at it. You're probably good at it sometimes, but not good at it all the time.
Yeah.
All right. A few closing thoughts. Hannah, who do you think this podcast is for?
Oh my God. It's for everybody.
Yeah.
It really is for everybody. But some people that I think it'd be really wonderful for are as follows. Are busy moms that are trying to be the best mom and do everything for everyone, but inside you're dying and feeling so tired, and the internal doesn't match the external. So I would say women and moms in that vein. I would also say my like 30 something spiritual seekers who feel scared, lonely, doubting, am I on the right track? Like I'm have this great life, but maybe I'm missing the partner. Maybe I have all these things, but something's missing. I think would be the other type of person that I think would really respond, like the curious seeker and the busy, anxious woman / mom.
Love that.
What do you think?
I also think everyone. I think that I'm going to add to your spiritual seekers, those of you who feel like there's like, you occasionally have a twinge of like there's something off about either the spiritual leader or path, or the way we're using psychedelic medicine, or the way that people are using. There's a lot of stuff out there, and not all of it is useful. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about some religious trauma, people who have been in religion and then out of it and want to reconnect with whoever they are, their spirituality. I think we're obviously both women, but I think we are going to be talking a lot about the pressures to just be a thing, whatever your gender is. So we're certainly interested in that. We've got some folks from the LGBTQIA plus community coming to speak with us and talk about identity and their mental health and their experience in the world. So I think that's a population we'd love to connect with and be talking to and be thinking about how we're all living on this planet together. Yeah.
I had one more and I forgot it. Oh! My therapy rebels. My people who have felt like traditional medication, traditional therapy isn't helpful. I feel like my mental health is not where I want it to be, but these traditional means haven't worked. I would say that you'll super respond to a lot of what we talk about on this podcast and resonate. Because again, it's going back to what Jane said. It's not this individual, you're broken. It's much bigger than that. And I hope that this podcast will let you feel connected and seen and heard to open your mind up to other types of healing, mental health care, wellness, you name it, is what I'm really hopeful for.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll second that. Anything else we should tell our listeners?
What are you excited about in life right now?
Oh, in my general life?
Yeah, like what's your number one excitement moment?
Well, as you know, I started doing some visual art, which I never have done before because I was like, oh, my brother is the visual artist and I'm the musician. So I'm really excited about like a new format around art and creativity. And I'm excited about balancing out sort of those identities every time. I'm not saying I'm doing it. I'm saying I'm excited about the prospects that could happen for me, and that things could be like long-term, sustainably balanced out where I'm working, but also doing other things that I love and care about. How about you?
I can't believe this is coming out of my mouth, but I have nothing really that much going on travel-wise, life-wise, besides launching the podcast. But I have nothing else going on for the next couple of months. No trips, no travel, no da-da-da. And I'm just excited to like take a breath and be at home and have slow mornings and laugh at my dogs and just kind of like chill and get into the fall vibe soon.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. But this summer feels just chaotic and crazy and busy and
and it's hot as hell.
It's hot as hell.
Like, how could we have climate change deniers after this?
They'll still be there. Hannah.
This podcast is not for you.
If you don't believe in climate change, you will not probably find you won't find a lot of similar ideas here, perhaps. Okay.
Well, we are so excited. Join us on this journey. If you have any suggestions or questions or want us to explore certain topics or certain folks, feel free to email us, DM us. All of our contact info is in the show notes. But we want this to be very engaging and collaborative. So we'd love to hear from you.
And if you think you have something interesting you'd like to share on the podcast, please reach out to us because we are interested in talking to all sorts of people who are doing all sorts of different kinds of work and thinking in lots of different ways. So please reach out to us if you're interested in interviewing and follow, subscribe, all the things that we do when you're trying to build something, which is going to be ironic because we're also going to talk about capitalism and not siloing and not making everything marketable. But we're going to do that while we build this podcast. So welcome to our conundrum. We can't wait to have you. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
You've been listening to Are We Happy Yet? A podcast brought to you by Green Roof Studios. This episode was produced, recorded, and edited by Jane Thatcher Hahn and Hannah Buzzo. All original music was written and recorded by the Jane Thatcher Band. For more information about the show, or to get in touch with us, please visit our website at www.arewehappyyetpodcast.com. Thanks for joining. See you next time.